extraterrestrial contact, when we're talking about the technology and the level of technology that these beings have, it is so far advanced that there is no possible way that human beings could even comprehend how it actually works. Because it's only been within the last few years, as an example, that people are beginning to understand in mainstream, I'm talking about all across the board, all people, that we have the ability to have telepathy, that we can communicate without words, that going into meditation, for example, has the ability to change the physics of the reality that surrounds us. These are scientific facts. Well, when it comes to the UFOs and the interchange between humanity and these beings and these craft, the level of science that's behind it is so far advanced that, quite honestly, most human beings, even the top scientists and the most intelligent people on the planet, would barely be able to touch the surface of understanding how it works.
Would you please explain what happened in your life that gives you this insight?
So in 1988, it was when I was 22 years old, and I had an encounter on a highway in British Columbia, Canada, where I was actually taken on board a UFO for 3 hours with tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed extraterrestrials. And there were also very short, about 4.5 feet tall extraterrestrials, had big, round, black eyes and very childlike, who took me by the hand out of that car and walked me down the highway to a much larger craft that was waiting there to take me. And so I had this 3 hours of massive download of the past, present, and future of humanity. And within that, the most extraordinary information that was shared with me was really about the understanding of the physics of how our reality functions. And I'm not just talking about Earth. I'm talking about its relationship with these extraterrestrials, as well as the other interdimensions that we exist in, how they all connect together. So I went from being a very average, I guess I had gifts, psychic gifts my whole life, even as a extraordinarily young child. But in 1988, they exploded after this experience. And what sets my case apart from many others is that at the end of this experience with these beings for 3 hours, they said to me, "You will remember this. You will remember." And they gave me a mandate to unfold. And that mandate is very simple. In its most basic terms, protect life. Protect life, both now and for the future. Because you see, they have the ability to understand and see the future, the present, and the past. And because once you understand the physics of how it all connects together, you can see how what we do today affects the future of tomorrow. In many ways, it's extraordinarily complex. And in other ways, it's extraordinarily simple. So they gave me warnings about the future. This was in 1988. And it was in 2007, 2008 that I published the book, Blue Star Fulfilling Prophecy, as a way of getting part of this message out to the world to say, look, this is real. These experiences that many people around the planet are having are real. There are many people out there that talk about the subject matter that make it difficult for people like myself, because when they don't remember something or they don't know something, they'll fill in the gaps. Mm-hmm. They'll fill in the gaps with a story. Makes it very, very messy. But with all of this information coming out from the government in the last couple of years, really, it's making it where people are starting to truly question what it is that's happening. So I have this amazing connection directly with them, and I still do have, I've had orbs that I've seen, and when the orbs come, I sometimes receive a message from them, all sorts of different ways that I'm still having contact.
And could I ask here, the smaller ones that were with the tall blondes, are those artificial intelligence totally?
I have been asked that in the past, and I can't fully answer. What I can share with you to give insight is that they appeared robotic and childlike in a way. Childlike in the sense that they just didn't seem like they were under their own influence in many ways.
And I've had people in the government say that a lot of the small ones are almost like universal AI used by several different ETs, whether that's true or not. But it leads to another important question. I have been exposed to people in military and in science who have worked side by side with what they call tall whites. I wonder if you can tell me if you make a distinction between the tall blondes that you interacted with and the tall whites that are supposed to be the color of chalk, including their hair, very light eyes, and that they can grow to be 10 feet or maybe slightly more, where the tall Nordics tend to top out around 8 feet. Do you know of a difference between those two categories of humanoids that many people in the abduction syndrome are confused about whether they were blonde Nordics or tall whites?
This is a fantastic question because it's one that I've often tried to assist people to understand. The tall whites that are often referred to by many people, especially in terms of working with different government projects, I've heard of them being over at Area 51, for example. They are not the same beings as the ones that I had contact with, these ones that I call the tall blondes. The tall whites are much thinner. I personally have not had a direct interaction with them, but I am aware of them. They are more interactive directly with humans here on the planet, but they are not the same at all. The tall blondes are who I refer to as them. The other name that I give them is the great ancestors. And there's a very specific reason for that. Okay, it's because in the beginning, when humanity was being formed on this planet, they were here. They were already here. Okay, some of these other beings came later. And I suspect that the tall whites came later. The great ancestors, or tall blondes, have been here since the beginning, helping to form, it's like terraforming the planet. But they do not interfere in the free will of human beings. They do not interfere in that. It's a very complex, very long, big story, but they have a great connection spiritually. Just to give it a term, an understanding, the tall blondes are very spiritual in nature, meaning they serve the creation. They serve creation to ensure that creation continues to evolve. They protect creation. They nurture creation. They also influence. Here's the other thing that might scare people, but they influence creation over time, very slowly, by assisting humanity, for example, to upgrade DNA patterns within the genome of the planet, of the human beings, of the genome. And they specifically, I asked them a question when I was with them in 1988. I said, are you God? Because the amount of information that they gave me about the past, the present, and the future of the Earth itself, and all of the physics that they explained about how creation was made and how it exists, these beings must be God. Is this God? Like, where am I? It was a very confusing time, as you can imagine, being on that craft. And their reply was, no, we are not God. And they said, we seek to know God the way that you do. But our understanding of God is so much more. It's so vast. They could never explain it to me because of their conceptual understanding of life itself.
Did they ever say, we're going to take you in our craft to another dimension because that is the way they travel? We're in the third. The advanced ETs, as I understand it from people in aerospace who have worked with them, is that if they want to go 100 light years from Earth to another solar system, They don't go through space in this third dimensional universe. They go outside of this third dimension into a fourth, fifth, whatever the dimension is. Their computers calculate the target 100 light years from Earth. And then they come back into the third dimension with the computer already having only one destination. It is the one programmed in the previous dimension, that when they come into this dimension, there is a frequency alignment where the craft can only go one place in this universe. And it's 100 light years from Earth, and it's the planet that they want to go to. Does that seem somewhat reasonable to what you've understood?
It would, and let me explain a little bit of the physics. Now, I'm not a physicist. I don't know. I don't have a big education, but I have sat with physicists in the past and explained to them how time travel works and how travel works within the universe itself. They've been shocked at what I've shared. Now, do I have the terminology of the physics? No, but let me explain it in super simple terms. When we think about a rock, okay, a rock has a certain, quote, frequency to it, meaning it's very, very dense and it's heavy. The molecules that make up a rock are formed in a very specific way, as opposed to, let's say, something like air, which is, again, it's all made up of the same energy. It's how it is compacted or formed, okay? And everything has a vibratory level to it. Everything that people talk about, vibration, good vibes, this and that in the spiritual world. Well, science talks about vibration as well, because that's what everything is made from, right?
Frequency.
So what happens is when they do time travel, you can do time travel or you can do distance travel, and they're slightly different in how they're formatted within their, let's say, computer systems of the UFOs. Now, only certain craft are able to do those long distances, and only certain craft are able to exist in other dimensional realities. So this is often why we hear about, for example, UFOs that are run on telepathy, because those craft are formed out of a specific type of energy that is within the universe that has the ability to transform itself, for example, between rock and air. You communicate with the energy and it transforms itself. Do you see what I'm saying?
By frequency is somehow the magic of what every relationship is.
Everything.
Right.
Absolutely everything. These extraterrestrials, some of them, not all of them, have the ability to manipulate the energy around the craft, and by doing so, it enables them to be able to travel great distances. So, for example, one part of the craft might be programmed to have a certain vibration frequency, and by doing so, it's going to be pulled to wherever it is that it needs to go.
Or a match in the specific frequency that the computer is basically saying that every atom and molecule in the craft has only one destination. It's matching frequency.
Yes, exactly.
What is that you are either dreaming, seeing, sensing between 2024 and perhaps 2030? There is a sense of something dangerous, and I think you implied that the tall Nordics in 1988, that they also have warned you about this particular time, which is related to the Blue Star Prophecy. Can you help us all understand that?
Well, the primary reason that I have had these contacts, and I've had them since even at birth, they began. The reason that I have had them was to give these warnings to humanity for the future. So yes, we are in that very precarious, volatile window of time. Now, I want to make something super clear. In the beginning, there was an actual timeline where if certain markers were